Michael, here we are, another Premier League campaign for yourself. This has been your tournament over the years. Do you still get the same excitement pre-Premier League?
Yes and no. Of course, I like to perform on the big stage week after week, but of course I've seen it all. It's nothing new for me. But of course, now we're playing with a few new players again, so that's made me exciting again.
Not making the playoffs last year, do you feel you've got something to prove in this year's Premier League?
Yeah, it's easy to say that. Last year's Premier League, of course, was a bit of a roller coaster, especially on the end of the Premier League. I dealt with some problems at home, and that didn't really help me, to be fair. But this year, we're putting our shoulders underneath it, and we're going for it again.
You've managed to climb every mountain in the PDC in your career. How do you climb this mountain and overtaking Luke and Luke again?
You have to do it. I'm not there yet. I can't oversee it yet. So, but it's they're doing really well. But it's up for me to answer with it. And of course, you're not going to do that in 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. It takes more time. But like I always said, darts it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. So we're going to see what's going to happen this year.
Michael, we saw in Bahrain and Saudi that your top game is still very close. Is it just about finding that consistency again, and do you feel you can do that in this Premier League?
That's a bit my story of the last 1, maybe 2 years. You need to make sure you're consistent all the time, and that's not always that easy, but that's the way how it is.
What do you make of this year's Premier League lineup? Do you feel that the right picks were made?
Yeah, you can always say everything. You can say anything about everyone, and it's not for me to judge about it. You know what I mean? I get picked, or I was already in anyway, and Wales, for me, it doesn't really matter. Wales is in. I wish they picked the number 126 on the ranking. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not sure if you heard at the end of the World Masters final, Luke Humphries said he believes that Luke Littler is the greatest player who's ever lived. Just as someone who's achieved as much as you have and has been around for as long as you have, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe he said that in his emotion. Of course, Luke Littler is, with shadow of doubt, a fantastic player and definitely one of the greatest players I've ever seen. But to say he's the greatest player of all, that's a bit. If he can continue this for another 10 years or 15 years, I say, yes, he's right. But first, let him do it.
Hi, Michael. With the Premier League, how highly does that rank in your sort of list of things you want to achieve this year?
This year, it's for me, it's more important the ranking tournaments instead of the Premier League. But before I always said the Premier League is the biggest tournament after the World Championships. It still is, but for me personally, this year ranking tournaments are more important.
Are you seeing 2026 a little bit of a fresh start for yourself, time to sort of attack and go on the way up again rather than looking down?
Right, yeah, of course that's what I want, but I also have sometimes you have the things. Sometimes the things happening you don't have control over, and that makes it sometimes hard. But of course, in my mind, I want to use this year as to find myself back in the game and to actually enjoy myself again.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, you've been the most successful player in the history of the Premier League. What is it about this tournament that seems to bring out the best in you?
Normally the consistency to perform week after week on the highest level in front of a lot of people. And I didn't do too well last year, but I also really don't like the format, to be fair. I prefer the old format, and that sometimes also doesn't help me. So I need to put that aside and just actually play a game. I think that's more important.
Well, that was my next question. We've seen a few different formats across the Premier League years. A lot of people have said online that maybe it's time for a change. How would you change it if it was to change for next year?
Yeah, there's a few ways, but there's a few ways to do it. But I prefer the old format anyway, above the format what we do now. But you can also do something with eliminations or have tournaments. Have the first so many weeks this format, and afterwards the old format. That's you can deal with it in other ways, but it's not up to me, is it?
And what is it about the old one that you preferred over the current one?
Because now all the players play too many times against each other, Otherwise, people really look forward to a certain week. That night is going to be Luke and Michael, or Luke and Luke, or Gezi against whoever. Instead of, it's happening every week. But I also understand for the spectator point of view, every week they have a little winner, you know what I mean? Because there's a little tournament each week.
Thank you, Michael.
Hi, Michael. 9 finals, 2 semi-finals in your 13 seasons in the Premier League. How pleased and proud are you of that record, and how determined are you to get back to finals night and go all the way this year?
I should be in the finals of the Premier League every year. I think with my capability. Only sometimes it's also possible to let yourself down. I did it in the Corona once, I think, and last year. And you don't want to put yourself in that position. But to come back on your question, of course I'm happy with the way how I performed here. But yeah, that's what happened in the past. Now you need to make sure your eyes are on this year's.
And with the Players' Championship events increasing this year, and with you missing out on the Players' Championship finals last year, is that something on your list to put right this year to make sure you're there at the finals?
Of course, I want to be there last year as well, but of course there was too many things happening. Also outside of darts, how that happened. But this year, of course, I want to put my shoulders underneath it and make sure I'm qualifying for every tournament.
And how far are we away from seeing the very best version of Michael van Gerwen?
I don't know yet. It's sometimes I'm playing some really good darts. But sometimes I can also not put my finger on it. Sometimes my scoring is really well, and then I'm missing 3, 6, 9 darts on my double, and then the leg after or the games after, my scoring is poorly, but all my finishing goes in with 1 dart. So sometimes I think, what's happening? And then you need to make sure you go back to the practice board with that information and make sure you try to keep up and make sure you keep playing well.
Thanks, Michael.
Hi Michael, you've been coming to this part of the world for a while now, for Premier Leagues and exhibitions. What are your best memories of playing in Newcastle, and how much are you looking forward to being in front of the Geordie fans tomorrow night?
I don't have a lot of memories because I never stays in my mind where I play. I played in so many big venues that I know it's a big one, and it's not far from here. But it's for me the most important thing is I want everyone to enjoy, and I want to enjoy on that stage as well, because then I think everyone has a good night.
Just on the Golden Dart and Centre coming into the Premier League, what's your thoughts on that? And does it add a little
I
bit
don't
more
know what my
pressure?
thoughts are. I never seen them and never had them yet, so I need to throw a 9-darter first.
Michael, what do you make of this new generation of young players coming through?
It's good. You see that the darts league, it's totally changing. Like when I started on the tour, I was the young kid on the block, and now I'm the old man. Do you know what I mean? I'm only 36 old, so you can see that the darts is totally in the age generation is going down and down. I think in 10 years' time, the best players will be all young players.
As an older player, are you constantly looking over your shoulder now at the young kids?
You have to do, but I had to look over my shoulder 15 years ago as well, so that doesn't change anything.
Michael, you mentioned your difficulties last year, and it was a challenging time for you. Do you feel like you come into this tournament just free and enjoyable?
That's my plan, of course. That's what I want. Sometimes it's also sometimes you also have things where I said earlier as well. You don't have control over. I'm in a totally new situation, and but for me, I want to enjoy, and that's the only thing that matters for me.
Michael, you touched about your game getting better, and we've seen that. I remember Vincent was quite critical in the build-up to the World Championships that you didn't practice anywhere near as much. Is that something that you put right? Are you back on the practice ball more than you've ever been to try and rediscover this form?
Yes, I know, but sometimes you also, when I'm home, I also have the kids, and your balance is different. Beforehand, I could practice whenever I wanted, but now when I have a different kind of schedule, so I have to work around it. So if I can manage and put a good balance in that, I think everything will fall in place again.